Hello, it's David Boddington here from CVG, and I'm joined by Andy Kelly. Andy, hello. Now, we're going to be reviewing, or Andy's already reviewed, should I say, SimCity.
Yes, Dave and I have been playing it quite a lot recently, and I've just finished filing my review, and I've formulated my thoughts on it. It's been quite a difficult process, actually, because it's one of those cases where how much do you separate the game itself from all this terrible online DRM nonsense. But what I found was, interestingly, is that when you get past all this server stuff and the game is working now, I mean, as we say this, the servers are fine, they've fixed them, but other problems have emerged about the game itself. Mm-hmm. So the negative reaction to it is not just purely about the DRM, but also some problems with the actual simulation at the core of the game.
Mm-hmm. So can you talk us through some of these issues? Because again, there's been a lot of speculation on Twitter, a lot of truth and a lot of nonsense going around. So can you talk us through what the exact problems are that you've encountered?
Yeah, well, one of the major problems, and this was something that people knew about early on, about city size, being the cities are too small, basically, and they've tried to say that this is because the simulation is so dense, that there's more going on, and there is more micromanagement. And so when I first started coming across this problem of hitting the edge of the border, you can see there that white dotted line is the border of your city, and it's always like a square right in the middle of a chunk of landscape. Sometimes it's next to the coast or whatever, but it's always like a square pretty much. And the problems I came across is when I kept hitting the edge, and then I said to myself, right, okay, I'm gonna think about this game differently. I'm gonna think that it's about growth and not about expansion. Whereas previous SimCities, you could just keep going for ages. I thought, well, maybe the intention here is that there's so much going on that you can just get really into the nitty gritty of what's going on inside your city. So I thought, right, I'm gonna try that, and so I focused on getting my land value up and reducing pollution and getting cleaner industry and stuff. Making my little square the most efficient, productive square of city possible. But really, every city I've done, and I've made a few successful cities with different specializations. Like I've got an oil town, I've got a tech town, but you always feel like you plateau, like you hit that point where you can keep improving what you have, but to really improve your city, you've got to build more stuff. So there's always demand for, like, build us more factories, build more shops, build more houses, but you don't have any room to you physically can't. So then your only option is to just demolish what you already have, and it seems a bit arbitrary to go, well, we need more industry, so I'll delete some shops and build more industry, but now we need more shops. It's like you backed into a corner, and it's happened with every city I've built so far.
As I experienced, I just ended up building more and more cities within a given space because I wanted to expand. I needed to pipe in more water or whatever, so I had to go somewhere else and build another water.
Well, that's what you can do. If you're in a region with plots of land going free, you can just build more cities and they can be interconnected, which is cool, but that's not always an option, because all my cities are on multiplayer servers with friends, and all the plots of land are either taken, or you don't want to hog all the space on the server. But my main city is on the biggest region, and every plot of land's taken, so I'm trapped.
That's it.
You feel trapped, and it really is an issue. The city size thing was. When I first heard people complaining, I thought maybe it was a bit of it wasn't as bad as it would have seemed, but. And initially it wasn't, and I put up with it, but now, like almost 20 hours in, it's really quite frustrating.
I can see how it get annoying. I mean, what about one of the other things that's been talked about quite a lot is some of the pathfinding of the Sims. As they travel around the city, there are some issues there.
Well, one of the things they bigged up was the fact that the traffic was dynamic. So if there was a traffic jam, it wasn't an algorithm saying there's now a traffic jam here. It was actually to do with the construction of your roads, and that has actually proven to be true, but not in the way they probably intended. Where there's a great test someone discovered online where if you have two roads leading into your city off the highway, and one of them's a 1-lane dirt path, and then one of them's a 4-lane freeway type avenue. If there's a slight curve on the avenue, the traffic will compute that the shortest route to town is the dirt road.
Yep.
So even though there's a big empty bit of road there for traffic to funnel through, they all clog up in this tiny dirt path. So it seems this promise of dynamic traffic really shows it up, because it goes, well, what's so dynamic about a driver going, well, that tiny dirt path is absolutely clogged with traffic, but it is shorter than that big empty freeway. So I'm by a fraction. So I'm gonna wait in the dirt road, and it's, that's quite a fundamental problem.
Are these the kind of things that you think Maxis and EA will be able to patch and fix?
Yeah, well,
it goes deeper than that.
Yeah, well, they said that they've promised to fix the the traffic pathfinding, but it's amazing that something like that would make it into the game. It's madness, because obviously that the example I used was a controlled test, but if you didn't know that, and you had a road where you had a curved road and you thought, well, there's my freeway, and you're like, why is no one taking that? The rules for a sim game, the rules have to be consistent so you can master them. But when they're inconsistent like that, you feel like you can't win, because you can't predict what's going to happen. You need a really tight rule set for a sim game like this to take advantage of and to manipulate. But with that kind of thing happening, it seems like so fundamentally flawed.
And it's interesting talking to you about this now, as you say, when you got 20 plus hours on the clock with the game. But when I was talking to you about this a couple of days ago, when you're maybe 10 or so hours in, you had quite a different perspective on it. You were still enjoying the game. I mean, can you elaborate on sort of what it was that was making it initially like such a fun experience, something that you really, really valued and enjoyed?
Yeah, well, everything I've said so far has been pretty much negative, but I did get a good 15 hours of enjoyment out of this. What's fun about it is that when you forget about all the stuff happening at street level, and you pull out and you think about your city as an entity on its own, you think of it in a bigger scale, the fun I got out of it was watching my little suburbs grow into big beautiful skyscrapers, and see my commercial district. And the way it happens really organically, like in a real city downtown as well, the skyscrapers are like, if you look at LA, it's all flat, then you've got the big so it organically grows like that, where your commercial district will grow first, and it feels really, it's really satisfying. You feel ownership, like I built that, it's kind of it's quite satisfying. And also I get really obsessed with profit, and so I love watching my hourly profit rise. Absolutely, and I think the highest I got, it was something like 30k, which was like, and that's all with trade networks.
Taxing to destruction.
Well, no, that's the thing, not even with taxing, because the taxing is really harsh. Like if you put it above 11, they'll just leave in droves. But I got really into setting up trade networks and stuff like that to see my profit rise. So that on a macro level, I found it really fun and addictive. But then like the moment where I started being disappointed in it is when I was hitting those city limits. I was feeling stifled, and it limits you. It doesn't just limit you in terms of size, but also creativity, because part of the appeal of SimCity is making crazy, not making quick, but like being creative and making a city that
interesting designs.
And in the video here, you saw that city with all the crazy looped roads and stuff, which looked fine, but that was totally inefficient. And to make it, you can either have a city that looks interesting, or one that's really productive and efficient, but not both. So it you feel stifled in terms of size and also creativity. Whereas all my cities, where I started out trying to make them unique with layouts, because you've got to fill every inch of the square, they all just end up being big blocks of big squares of buildings. It's really disappointing. And this is something that only starts to emerge the more you play it. And the same with the low-level simulation stuff. You start to notice flaws in it, and you start to realise that it's not as complex as it maybe promises.
Because one of the things that Max has been saying is that a lot of the computational stuff is being done actually remotely on the servers, which it is one of the reasons why they're saying you always need to be connected.
Well, that's what they said. They said that the reason that they can't have an offline mode is because computation is done server side. But recently, some modder has played the game offline, proving that to be untrue, which is pretty bad. I mean, no, there were some things that didn't work on this offline modded version, but the game functioned. So you could create a functioning city. And also there's a rumour going around from a supposed Maxis employee that that they could easily make an offline mode, but you know, don't want to take that with a pinch of salt, being the internet and all. But
well, exactly.
Yeah.
So would you say, you know, are you going to be going back to the game anytime soon? Now that you have, you know, you've sort of bumped your head against the ceiling, so to speak, in space and in design terms. You know, does it still have long-term appeal for you?
Yeah, well, I was thinking this, like, last night I went on there and I looked at I've got like 4 cities on the go, and I had a look at them and I went, well, I've sort of peaked with that one. There's no more room to expand in that one. And all of them, they were just like, well, I could go in and build those stuff and build more stuff, but what's the point in that? And it just, you know, I tried setting up my own private region where I had cities in every block, and it became, you know, it felt a little bit bigger, but just having those, in like 4 hours you can fill a city up, and that's really bad. Like, you know, to reach your borders in a handful of hours is very un-SimCity like. And the reason they say this is because the simulation is so complex, but it really, the traffic being one symptom, it really isn't that complex when you get down to it. So I'd rather have all the computations in the background being done, you know, unseen in the background, if it meant having bigger cities. But space, the fact that they're like, oh, you can follow individual police cars, like, you know, you do it once and then that's it. It adds nothing to the game, and I'd rather have that bigger cities if all that stuff was hidden and it was a bit more smoke and mirrors. But
so to summarise then, you know, would you recommend this as a game for people to pick up?
Well, that's the hard thing about it, because I did get, like I said, I got 15 hours ish of sitting up till ridiculous hours. I mean, you've been doing this as well, like noticing that it's 4 a.m. on a school night and like literally dreaming about the game, having weird
Close
dreams.
your eyes, all I can see is lines and
like
grids.
You know, and that's a sign of a good game. But like, it's the same thing that Civilization has, that really compulsive and addictive, but with a fraction of the longevity. So I don't know, the servers are fine now. If you want to have a bit of short-lived sim fun, pick it up, but don't expect to be sinking hundreds of hours into this, unless they bring out some patch that expands the cities, and maybe it'll be like a paid-for DLC. Knowing EA. So yeah, it's a hard one to recommend, because you will have fun with it, but then you will get frustrated eventually.
Okay, thanks very much, Andy.